think it's quite important to think of trust in 3 chapters, right? So a long period of history was local trust. People lived in small villages and communities. Trust was largely face-to-face and based on your personal reputation. When we went through mass urbanization, when we wanted to internationally trade, this type of trust wasn't scalable. So we invented institutions and we invented institutional mechanisms. So everything from brands to the idea of middlemen to things like insurance and contracts. And they were all a very good thing. But what started to happen is that trust flowed through the institutions versus directly between people. And many of those institutional mechanisms of trust are top-down. They are quite controlling and opaque, and that's the way many institutions still think about trust, and that's not what technology wants to do. Technology wants to take that institutional power and distribute it, which is why we're very much in the nascent stages, but it's this third phase of distributed trust that we're starting to see right now. Distributed trust takes many different forms, but the easiest way to think of it is trust that flows through networks and marketplaces and platforms. And so it takes trust away from sort of a top-down institution and decentralizes it through some kind of technology. And this is inherently what technology wants to do. It wants to take some form of power or some form of value and fragment it and distribute it in a different way. So this is what we call I call distributed trust. So you see it through traditional media. It used to be a newspaper that would print a newspaper each day and an editor would decide what we read. And now, of course, through social media, information's distributed. We're starting to see it through the blockchain and sort of cryptocurrencies, where value used to be from a bank to a consumer, and we're starting to see how value can flow in different ways. It's very, very much in its infancy, but distributed trust is basically this idea that trust and alongside it, power and value can now flow directly between individuals without the need for traditional institutions. So this is a question I get a lot, is distributed trust dangerous? And I think one of the most important ways that we need to be talking and thinking is to stop talking about things in technical terms and to start talking about things in ethical terms. One of the things I missed when I started writing about the sharing economy almost 10 years ago was this bigger issue. It's bigger than accountability. It's like an issue of social responsibility. So when you have a platform and there's a producer and a consumer on either side, I think in the first wave of this, you saw the companies, Uber's a classic example, right? Like if something happens between that driver and that passenger, it's not our responsibility. And that's where we're starting to see a sea change is, yes, companies, they kind of have to be proactive and often through technology to reduce the risk of bad things happening. But the real question, and we haven't even got close to this, is what's their reactive role? What's their role when something goes wrong? And that could be a small fraudulent payment all the way through to someone losing their life, to misinformation influencing the outcome of an election. And so this issue of social responsibility around platforms and the role technology plays in that, I think is one of the most critical issues of our times.